Russia's invasion of Ukraine began in February, and since then, the entire world has suffered its effects. Both Ukraine and Russia continue to sustain heavy losses, and if it weren't for new facial recognition technology being used there, many would go unidentified. AI could give the world a better view of the human cost of war, but it still remains highly controversial. We'll be covering that and more in today's video. First up, the technology reuniting families. War has been a consistent part of the long history of humanity, claiming billions of lives way before they were meant to end, and it will surely continue to do it in the millennium to come. Many of these lives rarely have their histories amended to show where they met their end. Their faces lost to time without their relatives and friends knowing how that came to be. For those that remain not knowing what became of your loved ones in a conflict such as the one in Ukraine can be more emotionally damaging than having a clear answer. That's why facial recognition technology is so important in these cases. Russia's war against Ukraine has been going on since 2014, but it's only boiled over into something more dangerous this year, with Russians moving directly into the country. Since the invasion began, thousands have died there, both Russians and Ukrainians, but facial recognition technology is giving families of fallen soldiers and civilians some hope of closure that they might not have had otherwise. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense began using Clearview AI facial recognition back in March in order to build a case for war crimes against the Russians, as well as to aid the identifying of the dead. According to the Ministry of Digital Transformation, they are also doing so to give the Russians the opportunity to truly feel the weight of what's happening in the country, to face the true cost of war. The software is being distributed freely to Ukraine, perhaps as a large-scale test. Not only is it being used for the purposes of dealing with casualties, it is also being used at checkpoints where refugees can be identified and reunited with their families. Next, we have the dark side of the technology. As with most new technology, Clearview AI had to deal with its fair share of controversy just last month. The company behind the software, going by the same name, was fined more than £7 million by the UK's Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO. The ICO did so because it found that Clearview AI was collecting images of people in the UK and in other states without their consent from around the web. The fine was also accompanied by an order instructing them to delete any images they've accumulated and to cease further data collection in that vein. A lawyer representing Clearview AI spoke out about the situation, stating that they believe the decision to impose a fine was improper according to the law, especially since Clearview doesn't come under ICO jurisdiction as it doesn't operate in the state. Whether or not Clearview could illegally be fined in the UK, the idea that a company is collecting hundreds of thousands of individuals without their knowledge is more than a little scary. It isn't like they're trying to hide it either. The company's already said that they've got a goal to accumulate 100 billion faces by early 2023. That's about 14 pictures for every single person on the planet. The more pictures they have of a single person, the better their tech will operate. Now for Clearview's controversial history. Clearview AI's facial recognition technology took 3 years to develop and distribute, though when it did make its way out in 2019, it did so discreetly and primarily to US police and law enforcement agencies. The New York Times was one of the first, if not the sole journalistic bodies that reported on the rise of Clearview. The articles titled warned of the company's policies putting personal privacy at risk. Following its publication, more than 40 civil rights and tech organizations requested the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board to suspend the distribution and use of Clearview AI's tech. Letters were also sent to 4 congressional committees. A month after that, in February of 2020, BuzzFeed took advantage of a leak of the company's client list and wrote an article analyzing some of the data that was released. They revealed that the software was being used by people in more than 2,200 law enforcement departments and government agencies across 27 countries. This year came its biggest setback, though, when in response to a lawsuit accusing them of breaching Illinois privacy laws, the company agreed to stop selling its face database to individuals and businesses in America. That isn't all, though. Since the reveal that Clearview has been distributing its software around the world, many countries, including Canada, France, Italy, and Austria, have fined, investigated, and even banned Clearview from collecting images of people online. And here's why it's scary. On Clearview's website, the company states that its facial recognition tech can help law enforcement deal with crime more effectively and could also help commercial companies detect theft and prevent fraud. There's no doubt that the use of technology can be beneficial in these regards, but AI is nowhere near being 100% accurate at the moment, and it likely never will. Tech like this is based on machine learning algorithms. It's a process of taking information that's already available and correlating new information as good as it can be, given what it's already learned. It operates on probabilities, but when it comes to human life, even a 90% confidence rating isn't enough. In the case of Ukraine, many are concerned that the tech might be used to identify living Russian soldiers making their way through checkpoints. If by chance the tech mistakenly identifies a Ukrainian citizen for a Russian, their lives would unfairly be thrown into further chaos. And there's definitely a chance that could happen. The implications of its use seem eerily dystopian, even if you do see its benefits. Only time will tell how far Clearview goes, and how important it remains during the Russia-Ukraine war. Next, in other news, Microsoft restricts facial recognition. Tech giant Microsoft also has its own facial recognition technology. However, in a recent move, the company decides to restrict its use. Companies that have access to it are not barred from using it to determine gender, age, or emotions. The move comes in as a part of Microsoft's new responsible AI standard, which is meant to safeguard individual privacy and individuals' goals. Microsoft believes that there's no consensus on the definition of what constitutes emotions, making it difficult to regulate company manipulation of of data in that regard. According to the company, it's also difficult to link facial expressions and emotions generally, so such use of its AI would necessarily be dubious. Microsoft has also stipulated that new users wishing to access its tech would have to explain how exactly they want to use it, and will also have to prove that their product's features benefit the end user. And now, Australia leads facial recognition use. In a pandemic such as the one we're currently facing, it is important to make sure that people are doing all they can to stop the disease from spreading. A big part of this social distancing, which could greatly reduce the strain on a healthcare system if enough people practice it. In Western Australia, if you've been determined to have COVID-19, you're ordered to quarantine at home for the next 7 days. This extends to your close contacts as well, in order to further limit the chances of the disease spreading. The quarantine is enforced by police, who regularly check up on infected individuals by sending periodic texts requesting a selfie to be sent back within 15 minutes. Facial recognition technology is used in tandem with GPS tracking to ensure that whoever sent the selfie is still at home. If that isn't the case, the individual could face a hefty fine. The facial recognition tech used here is an app called G2G, developed by a local startup called Genvis. So far, the app has been used by more than 150,000 people in the country, having just launched in September of 2020. Australia is the only country so far that used this technology to aid in COVID-19 containment protocols. As with most countries dabbling in facial recognition, Australia has faced much backlash. The Australian Human Rights Commission has called for a halt to its use until the country has firm regulatory laws that govern it. Finally, Australian retailers crack down on theft. In a recent survey, consumer group Choice asked 25 Australian retailers if they were using facial recognition technology, and also examined their privacy policies. Out of these, 3 responded in the affirmative. These were Kmart, Bunnings, and The Good Guys. According to The Good Guys privacy policy, the retailer allows for a customer face to be captured in an image, and their movements may be tracked through the store. Bunnings and Kmart both have signs outside select stores where it's used, stating as much. However, Choice consumer data advocate believes that this is a completely inappropriate use of the tech, a sentiment many likely share. That's a wrap for the video. Do you think facial recognition technology is ultimately a positive development for the world? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one!